So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes. The idea is that you get to cover your current affairs on a daily basis, but you don't have to spend your entire day just reading the newspaper because you need time for other parts of your UPSC syllabus. Therefore, for your facility, we have launched this lecture series in which we'll cover the entire day's current affairs within 30 minutes. Now, just watching this lecture would be job half done because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well. Why? Well, revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided along with this lecture, and these notes shall be shared on our Telegram platform. Where can you find our Telegram platform? Well, just below this video in the comment section, you'll find a link. Just click on that link, it'll take you to our Telegram channel, and from there you can download the notes for this lecture and do the necessary revision. Alright then, enough of the introduction, let's straight away jump into the lecture. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. Number 1 is National e-Vidhan application. This National e-Vidhan application will make our legislatures, both parliament and state legislatures, paperless. All the processes in the legislatures of India would be paperless if a particular legislature enrolls with this application. Now, recently, Delhi Legislative Assembly enrolled with this application. So, we'll talk about this NEVA application, okay, and how this will make our entire legislative system more efficient. Then, next topic is BAANKNET and eBKray platform. Well, these two platforms are basically e-auction sites. Now, banks, especially public sector banks in India, want to auction off or sell off their NPAs. Sometimes these NPAs are too much for them, so they want to sell it off to the highest bidder. So for that, they launched a auction site, e-auction site, and these e-auction sites are known as BAANKNET and eBKray platform. We'll talk about them in detail. Then, recently, Government of India has announced that it will remove Equalisation Levy, a form of tax on digital services. Now, what is Equalisation Levy? We'll talk about this. Then recently, you must have heard about this, that a Delhi High Court judge, there have been serious allegations leveled against a Delhi High Court judge because bags full of cash were found outside his premises, outside his official residence, right? So this brings into question the issue of judicial accountability. So we'll talk about this issue. And in the end, we'll talk about Unified Pension Scheme because revised guidelines for this pension scheme have been released by Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority of India. So what is this Unified Pension Scheme? How is it different from National Pension Scheme and Old Pension Scheme? Okay, we'll talk about this. Alright, so these are the 5 topics that we'll zero in our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number 1, which is National e-Vidhan application. So Delhi Legislative Assembly has taken a significant step towards digital governance by signing MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, between Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs and Government of Delhi for the implementation of NEVA application, National e-Vidhan application. Okay, now what is this application? Basically, if a particular legislature enrolls with this application, then the entire legislative process will become paperless. As you know, all legislative assemblies have a lot of paperwork, right? Legislators have to file a lot of paperwork, secretarial staff has to file a lot of paperwork. If all this process is taken online, then legislative work will become more efficient and more sustainable also because you won't require that much paper. And where do you get paper? By cutting trees. So there will be less demand for paper. Well, it will be better for the environment and sustainable development, right? So that is why Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, Union Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs is encouraging all states and UTs in India which have legislative assemblies to enroll with this application. Now, Delhi has become the 28th legislature in India to join this NEVA platform. Okay, as simple as that. But first, let's talk about some other features of NEVA platform, all right? So this platform digitizes house business, providing real-time access to documents. So you just have to enroll on your a particular MLA or MP, just has to log on to this application and download any document, okay? Enabling seamless coordination among legislators and secretarial staff. The purpose of this application is to bring greater efficiency, accessibility to any document, sustainability because you'll require less paper, okay? Now, this application was created and implemented by Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs under its initiative called One Nation, One Application. All right. Now, some of the key features of this application, well, it is a device neutral application. That means you can download it on your iPhone, you can download it on your Android phone, you can use it on laptops, tablets, computer, PC. It is device neutral. Then it will ensure paperless legislature. Real-time digital repository, that means real-time documents shall be uploaded, updated, amended. Then this entire application and this website shall be hosted on a secure cloud, secure server called Meghraj 2.0, which Government of India created for government websites. Okay. Plus mobile NEVA, mobile app and capacity building, and plus training modules are there to train MPs and secretarial staff on how to use this application. Right? It's as simple as that. It's not that complicated. Okay. So let's move on to second news item, which is BAANKNET and eBKray platform. Now, before understanding what was in the news, you need to know that public sector banks in India have a huge problem of NPAs, non-performing asset. And I'm sure most of you know about non-performing asset. These are those loans that are not yet recovered. So if a bank has given a loan to someone and that person has defaulted, is not paying it back, then that loan becomes a non-performing asset for the bank. Now, banks have the option of selling this NPA to a third party. And now this third party will recover loan from that person who had taken the loan, who had defaulted. Okay. By doing this, PSBs or banks can recover their money. And now it's between this third party and the borrower to do a deal. Clear? But through this, by selling these assets to a third party, public sector banks or banks in general clear their balance sheets. They recover some money out of it. Okay. Now, to make this process of selling NPAs more efficient, Department of Financial Services under Ministry of Finance had asked public sector banks to create an e-auction platform where public sector banks, remember, not private banks, public sector banks can auction off their non-performing assets. Okay, and for that reason, eBKray platform was launched in 2019. Okay, but this eBKray platform was not working properly, or it needed to have some upgrades. Okay, you needed to upgrade it. Okay, it needed to have some features, extra features. Therefore, on 3rd January 2025, well, Department of Financial Services launched another platform for e-auctioning, and that is called BAANKNET. This has all the upgraded features. Okay, now let's learn some more information about BAANKNET. Okay. So it is specifically designed to enhance transparency and speed up the process of disposing of non-performing asset cases. Now, what will it use? It will use state-of-the-art technology, automated KYC tools. KYC means know your customer. So anyone who is bidding for a non-performing asset on this platform, well, they have to fill in all their information so that banks know that they are not selling their assets to the wrong entity. Secure payment gateways, bank-verified property titles. Okay. The platform ensures high level of transparency through property auction process. Now, as of now, 12 public sector banks, which are all the public sector banks in India, and Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India are using this platform, which was developed by Department of Financial Services under Ministry of Finance. Clear? Now, you need to know about this department as well. This Department of Financial Services, what does it do? What is its role? So let's talk about that. So Department of Financial Services is a key body under Ministry of Finance. Remember this. Focusing on regulating and promoting various financial services like banking service, insurance service, pension service, with a focus on financial inclusion and stability. Okay. What are its key functions? So it has a key function of financial inclusion, which means each and every Indian should have access to basic banking services, insurance services, financial services. Then regulation of banking sector along with RBI, regulation of insurance and pension sector, ensuring financial stability, financial literacy among Indian citizens, and operation of Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which was a scheme for financial inclusion. Okay, that each and every Indian should have a bank account. Okay, now Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority, the authority that regulates pensions in India, and Financial Services Institution Bureau. This bureau actually appoints high-level directors into public sector banks. Well, these two bodies operate under this department. Okay, that would be all. Let's quickly jump to third news item, which is Equalisation Levy. Okay, now hear me out carefully. Okay, You know about these companies called Google and Facebook, which is called Meta, right? Now you're using Google, you're using Meta, Facebook, right? You're using YouTube, and YouTube is owned by Google. Now, if you want to run an ad on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, well, you would have to purchase ad services from Google and Meta, because Google and Meta would run your ad and they would charge some fees, right? So if you want to advertise online, you would have to pay Google and Meta to run your ad campaigns. So basically, Google and Meta are providing ad services. So basically, you are purchasing ad services from Google and Meta, right? Now, in India, there are other domestic Indian ad services which are provided by Indian agencies. Now, these Indian agencies have to pay Indian taxes because they come under Indian tax laws. So they have to pay taxes. But Google and Meta are not in India, right? They don't come under Indian taxation laws. Make sense? So basically, domestic ad companies said that we are at a disadvantage. We are providing these ad services, but we have to pay you taxes. Google and Meta are providing same ad services to Indians, but they don't have to pay any taxes. So they are at an advantage. And because they don't have to pay taxes, they can sell their ad services to Indian consumers at a very low price. But we have to charge a high price because we have to compensate for our tax burden also, right? So government of India said, okay. Government of India said that Google and Meta will have to pay a tax for selling ad services to Indians. Okay, so if Google and Meta are paying, selling ad services to Indians, not any foreigners, Indian consumers, they will have to pay some form of tax so that they are at equal footing with domestic ad services. This was done to ensure fair competition, right? So that Google and Meta are at equal footing with domestic ad services, well, we applied a particular form of tax on them, which was called equalization levy. Levy means tax, and equalization, the word equalization, you understand, so that Google and Meta are at equal footing with domestic ad companies, right? This was known as equalization levy, and it was kept at 6%. Okay. Similarly, we have e-commerce companies, right? Like Amazon. Amazon provides e-commerce services to Indians, but there are Indian e-commerce companies as well. These Indian e-commerce companies have to pay taxes, but Amazon doesn't. So, to keep Amazon on an equal footing with Indian e-commerce companies, okay, Amazon has to pay equalization levy, which was different. Okay, equalization levy again, so that they are at equal footing with Indian companies. Now, this is known as equalization levy. Simple, yes. Now, the government on Monday proposed to abolish equalization levy or digital tax on online advertisement from April 1st, 2025. You see, when India applied this equalization levy, USA was not happy with India because most of these companies are US based and they basically lobbied their governments to force India to remove these taxes. Okay, so now equalization levy on online advertisements have been abolished, but not on e-commerce. Remember that. Okay, these changes are part of 59 amendments to the finance bill, which was part of this year's budget. This will reduce tax burden on digital ad consumers and costs on platforms like Google, X, and Meta. All right. Now let's delve a little deeper into this issue of equalization levy. So it is a tax imposed on non-resident digital service providers. That means non-Indian digital service providers like Google, Meta, Amazon, for services related to online ads and e-commerce transactions. The purpose is to equalize the tax component of resident e-commerce companies, that means Indian e-commerce companies, as well as non-resident companies. Now, there are two types of equalization levy. On online ad services, which is 6%. Okay, and this was introduced through Finance Act 2016. And the other equalization levy is on e-commerce companies like Amazon, which is kept at 2%, and it was introduced by Finance Act 2020. Okay, now some of the key features of this equalization levy, though I hope you understood the concept, right? Some of the key features are, well, it is applicable on payments to non-residents for online advertisements or digital ad space. Okay, So if you are paying for ad service to non-Indian companies, then it is applicable. If you're paying for e-commerce services to non-Indian companies, then it is applicable. Which entities are exempt? Foreign companies which have a permanent establishment in India, well, they are exempt from equalization levy because now they come under Indian taxation laws. Transactions below 1 lakh for online ads and 2 crore for e-commerce transactions, well, they are exempt. So we guys are exempt basically. Personal use transactions which are not related to business, they are exempt from equalization levy. All right, make sense? Okay. Now let's move forward to a very major issue, and that is the issue of judicial accountability. Now, hear me out carefully. Recently, a Delhi High Court judge, basically his official residence, well, people found sacks of half-burnt cash on his official residence. Okay, and that basically raises the question that maybe he accepted bribes or maybe he did not. But serious allegations are leveled against him, and that of corruption, serious corruption. Now, if a judge is found to be corrupt, how do we ensure that that judge who is responsible for punishing others is held accountable? Right? Because holding judges accountable is also important, because judges hold everyone else accountable. Okay, so who would hold these judges accountable so that people's trust in judiciary is maintained, right? Hence the question of judicial accountability is at the forefront. The purpose is, judicial accountability is a fundamental principle of any democratic society, because democratic society cannot function properly with a strong judiciary. And judiciary will only be strong if people's trust in judiciary is strong. Because if people lack faith in judiciary, they would not settle their disputes in Indian courts. They would settle their disputes outside. And this would create a sense of lawlessness in India. Therefore, it is generally said that perception of justice is more important than justice itself. That people should feel that they will get justice. And for that, judicial accountability is important, because people shouldn't feel that our judges are corrupt. If people have this feeling, they would lose faith in our judicial system, right? So it is very important to ensure judicial accountability. Now, how is judicial accountability ensured in India? Basically, how are judges held accountable for any wrongdoing on their part? So number one provision is impeachment of judges. Okay, so Article 124 Clause 4 and Article 218, 124 for Supreme Court judges and 218 for High Court judges, provides the process of removal of judges. Okay, but this removal process is very difficult. Why? Because if you want to remove a Supreme Court judge or a High Court judge, you need to pass a motion, and that motion needs 2/3 majority in Parliament, which is very difficult to get. No Supreme Court or High Court judge has been impeached so far, because this is a difficult process. Okay, and this process of impeachment shall be overseen as per the provisions of Judges Inquiry Act, which provides the proper procedure for impeachment of judges. Okay, so when it comes to Supreme Court and High Court judges, it is very difficult to ensure accountability, because the only process for censuring them is through impeachment, which is very difficult. But the thing is, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, there is some glimmer of hope. Both Supreme Court and different high courts of the country have internal processes to ensure internal judicial accountability. So whenever a judge, serious allegations are leveled against a judge of the Supreme Court has an internal mechanism. Similarly, high courts have internal mechanisms. But people are demanding external mechanisms so that a separate body holds judges accountable. Okay. By the way, this is not the problem with subordinate courts, district court, sessions court, okay, subordinate judiciary, because subordinate courts, lower courts come under high courts, and they can basically transfer a judge, remove a judge, all of that. Clear? But when it comes to Supreme Court and High Court judges, it is very difficult to hold them accountable. Okay, apart from internal mechanisms within these courts, there is no other method. There is only one method, constitutional method, which is very difficult to basically it is very difficult to get this done. Okay. Now, judicial accountability is important because it will strengthen our democracy. It will put trust in judicial system. Public's faith in judicial system would be enhanced. That is why you need to hold judges accountable, especially judges of the higher judiciary, high courts and Supreme Court. But what are the roadblocks in ensuring judicial accountability? Number one, as I mentioned before, complex impeachment process. You need two-third majority. Okay. Plus, there is no external mechanism, only internal mechanism. Plus, if anyone comes out with a mechanism to hold judges accountable through an external mechanism, well, people might say that this external body that will hold judges accountable will be all powerful and it would threaten judicial independence, which is important for justice in India. Okay, so if there is a third party for judges, well, that third party will be very powerful and judges would be scared of that party, right? And it can happen that this third party becomes corrupt and it pressurizes judges to give unfair judgments, right? So judicial independence would be threatened. Plus, in India, judicial procedures or appointments or transfers of judges lack transparency. That is a problem. And then there are other challenges as well. If you are discussing the issue of corruption in judiciary, well, any high court judge can pass contempt of court against you and you will be punished. So that is a fear. Then delays in proceedings of judicial misconduct. Internal inquiries, internal mechanisms are delayed. Then resignations of judges. If a judge is found to be guilty of something, he resigns before any proceedings are launched against him. So when he resigns, the matter is closed there and then. So that is a problem. Okay. So these are the challenges to judicial accountability. All right. And now let's come to last news item of the day, which is Unified Pension Scheme. Okay. To understand this, you need to understand what old pension scheme was and what new pension scheme was. Okay. So look, before 2004, all central government employees were enrolled under old pension scheme. Now, what was old pension scheme? Under old pension scheme, well, a person would work for all his life or her life in central government departments, and once they retire, well, they are eligible for a pension which will be at least 50% of their last drawn salary, and they would receive that pension after retirement after 60. Okay, this was applicable for all central government employees and they were happy about it. But one body that was not happy about this scheme was the government, because government's financial burden was very high under old pension scheme. Okay, they had to first pay salaries and then they had to pay pensions. Their budget was extremely high and that was really a burden on their fiscal resources. It really increased their fiscal deficit. And to fulfill this fiscal deficit, they had to borrow. This really ballooned debt on central government. So all of this was this entire system was problematic. Okay. So in 2004, Government of India came out with an idea. Okay. And this is an idea that is applicable all over the world. All over the world, pension systems run in this way. Now the government said that all central government employees that are basically employed after 2004, they will be under new pension scheme. Under new pension scheme, these employees will contribute some percentage of their salary every month to a pension fund. Every month, some percentage of their salary shall be contributed. Okay, they will give some percentage of their salary to this pension fund and they will continue doing so till their retirement. Okay, based on their contribution, whether they gave 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%, based on their contribution, they will get a pension after retirement. Now, what used to happen was employees used to contribute this to the pension fund. Now, the managers of this pension fund used to invest this money to bond market, stock market, any market, and used to earn money. And based on that, they used to pay pensions after retirement. Now, this was a system which did not put any burden on the government, and government was happy. And this is a system that is applicable elsewhere in the world. Okay, you are responsible for your own pension, and this would also inculcate saving habit among people. But for the longest time, central government employees were not happy with this, and many opposition political parties have said that once they come to power, they would bring old pension system back. In fact, in many states where opposition parties are in power, they have brought old pension system back. Now, old pension system is fiscally burdensome. But under new pension system, well, employees say that they don't get any advantage, right? And that is why government was on the back foot because of this, the new pension system. So, what has the government decided? The government has said, okay, all central government employees would now be eligible under this unified pension scheme. Unified pension scheme is basically a fusion or a mixture of old pension scheme and new pension scheme. Okay, the best parts of both have been applied to this. Now, under unified pension scheme, what will happen is that you will still have to contribute from your salary. Okay, 10% of your salary you will have to contribute, and 18.5% of your salary will be contributed by the government to this pension fund. And this process will go on till your retirement, right? Once you retire, you will get a pension based on your contribution. But the catch is, people might say that this is exactly similar to new pension scheme. Apart from government contribution, what is different? Well, government says that you will get a pension based on your contribution, but we guarantee you that you will at least get 50% pension of your last drawn salary. This part is taken from OPS. So there will be this guaranteed payout. And if you have contributed more, then you'll be given more. Okay, that is the thing. So recently, Pension Fund Regulatory Authority has issued guidelines for implementing UPS. Now, central government employees would be given a choice to opt for UPS or stay with NPS. Once they have chosen UPS, well, they will be permanently enrolled with UPS. Okay, very simple. Now remember, this is only for central government employees. Okay. Now, key features of this. UPS is a contributory scheme where employees will be required to contribute 10% of their basic salary and dearness allowance, while the employers, or in this case, employer is central government, will contribute 18.5. UPS will offer 50% of average basic pay drawn by central government employee during the 12 months prior to retirement. So whatever salary you were drawing 12 months prior to your retirement, you will be given at least 50% of that. But there is a condition. Your service should be at least 25 years. If your service is not 25 years and it is between 10 years to 25 years, then your pension would be based on your contribution, but you'll at least get 10,000 per month. Okay. And if you want to take voluntary retirement, then too there are some other provisions. But remember, UPS is a mixture of old pension scheme and new pension scheme. All right. Some more details you'll find in your notes as well. All right. Okay. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it has added value to your preparation. But it would add more value if you spend another 15 minutes to revise this lecture from the notes provided by us on the Telegram channel. All right. On that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.